Hello, this is Jennifer Bryant, and welcome back to the Enough Mom podcast. You're listening to episode 120, and this is the first episode in our new series, Growing Through Every Stage. If you are parenting through the infant and toddler stages, you are growing and becoming as much as your little baby is. This episode is for you, Mama. If you are that mama, holding your baby in one arm and scrolling in another. Maybe you're up for another 2 a.m. feeding, who knows, but you're in the right place. You are in the right place if you were wondering if you're doing any of this right. I talk to new moms often about this stage in particular, and because everything is so new to them, because they felt a whole lot more competent in the last stage of their life, maybe it was coming home from work or school or something. Being a mother now is unnerving because if you're like me, no one really ever trained you for it. I mean, I am the oldest of 4 kids, so I sort of learned by doing life with my family. But when I became a mother of my own, of my first girl, my oldest daughter, I felt pretty incompetent. So I want to be here for you, and I want you to know that you'll be okay. You just have to be committed to learning and growing as you go. So the new series we're kicking off, Growing Through Every Stage, starts at the very beginning, these infant and toddler years, with sleepless nights, first steps, first words, tantruming, Lord, the tantruming. And this may most likely be a whole lot of firsts for you too. But listen, hey, even if you're doing this stage again because you have older kids and you are mothering baby children again, you may learn something new because each child teaches us something a little bit different. Each child is different, right? In their own right, they are. But what people don't tend to tell you or write sweet notes in your little baby shower cards is that this season isn't just forming your child, it's forming you too. It will transform you from the inside out. It will be trying on your body, your mind, and your spirit. But then again, pretty much every stage of parenting is. So let's make it our goal, not just to survive this stage, but to grow through it and learn what it takes to be the resilient mom of infants and toddlers. I'm going to be honest with you and say the infant toddler years nearly broke me. I remember thinking that I wasn't cut out for this because I had piles of laundry here, piles of dishes there, a crying baby, which set off my own nervous system in ways that I didn't know I could be triggered. And I was genuinely afraid at times. I was afraid I would do something accidentally to hurt my baby, or that I would get so frustrated and neglect her in a way that I just couldn't fathom. It was scary in many ways. And I remember scaring myself with my own thoughts, all the intrusive negative thoughts that would come in and out all the time, because most of the day I was alone with her. Dad was out working and I was at home trying to figure it out and going, why in the world would anyone leave me alone with this young child? I didn't trust myself. It was hard. It was hard territory that had not been explored before. And I trusted myself less the more that the responsibilities piled up. What I was doing was really comparing myself to the perfect mom in my head. I was constantly comparing myself to this picture of what a good mom looked like. Like she already things like she had a clean house all the time. Her baby slept through the night at 6 weeks, which for some mothers, I was already hearing things like that. She also had a schedule that worked for her. She'd figured it out. In fact, I saw one mom who scheduled out pretty much every 15 minutes of her entire day. And I remember thinking, what in the world is she doing? How is that even achievable? Later, I figured out that planning things like that actually can save your sanity sometimes. But we'll attack that one later. But then there was me. I had barely showered, and I could not figure out how to get my life together, at least as well as other people did. But over the years, since I've been working with mothers and parents of all types, I've learned that that picture in our head is mostly unrealistic. It's mostly a lie that we keep believing because of that negativity bias thing I talked about a few episodes ago. It's the reinforcement of the thing that we want to be true to prove to ourselves that we actually don't have it figured out. And if we can point to something objectively outside of our brains and bodies, it has to be true. right? The comparison game at the beginning of motherhood is so brutal. And it's mostly because you're running on empty in that stage of life. A lot of times moms don't have the emotional bandwidth to filter what's real and what's curated. Now that we have social media, social media wasn't a huge thing when I was having kids back in 2009. Things are way different now, which makes my work as a coach even more important because I'm constantly encouraging moms to fight what they're seeing on their phones and what is reality. See, a lot of us we need to pause, we need to put that phone down and have a big old reality check again, myself included, because, hey, I'm going through my own stages of the teenagers right now, which we'll get to in a few episodes, but still, it's getting used to questioning what we're seeing, what our reality is, and who we can talk to about it to right size the expectations in our minds. So mama, if you are running on empty and you are trying to figure out this baby thing with very little sleep and care for your own self, please start with being kind to yourself and take this moment, whatever you're doing now as you're listening, take a moment to take a deep breath and just practice some self-acceptance, some self-love. And believe me when I say it's going to get better. It's going to be okay. Let this day pass and give yourself the grace that you need right now. The infant and toddler years are the years of total identity disruption. You go from being a person with a name, career, hobbies, friendships, and autonomy. You go from being that to being the person who hasn't finished a cup of coffee in like 2 months. And people don't tend to warn you that the grief that you feel for your old life is pretty normal. It's a full identity shift. And if you find yourself grieving your own life, you're not being ungrateful. You're being human. It's normal to miss what we had in our old seasons. So if you're in that place right now, I want you to hear me. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in the middle of one of the most rapid transformational seasons that you will ever experience. And that's not just something to endure, it's something to honor. So let me attempt to take some pressure off you with a little bit of brain science. Developmental research tells us that the first 3 years of life, a child's brain is forming more neural connections than any other time in life. And you know what drives that development? It's not flashcards. It's not baby Einstein videos. It's not that organic vegetable puree recipe that you saw on Instagram. It's you. It's your face. It's your voice. It's your presence. It's the way that you respond when they cry. It's the way you come back when you've stepped away. It's the way you hold them and say, I'm here. Here's where we get into what behavioral science calls attachment theory. I'm going to keep this simple because nobody needs a textbook explanation right now. Attachment theory tells us that a child's sense of security comes from a consistently responding caregiver. Not perfectly responsive, consistently responsive. That means you can miss cues as a mom. You can have bad days. You can get so frustrated and overstimulated that you need to step away for a little bit longer periods. As long as you're doing that to reconnect yourself, recollect to reconnect. You can go cry in the bathroom and then come back and scoop up your baby. And that is the beginning of what we call repair in relationships. And that is what builds security. Dr. Donald Winnicott, pediatrician and psychoanalyst, coined this perfect phrase. He called it the good enough mother. Not the perfect mother, not the Pinterest mother, the good enough mother. The one who shows up imperfectly and consistently. The one who raises a securely attached child. Mama, you don't have to be everything. You just have to be there. And you already are. Look, it's the fact that you're even listening to a podcast like this, that you're looking for ways to be better. That tells me that you are already more present than you're probably giving yourself credit for. Hey mama, before we keep going, I want to tell you about something that I created specifically for this stage of motherhood, the infant and toddler years. It's called Your Time, Your Way, a new mom's guide to creating a schedule that works. And I wrote it because I remember how desperately I needed someone to just hand me a framework, something flexible, a tool that I could work into my own life. I needed a grace-filled guide to figure out what I could use to work for my family situation. This guide will help you through building rhythms, not rigid routines, that honor your baby's needs and your own. And the part that I wish someone would have told me is how to build in time for yourself without guilt, because you matter in this equation too. You can grab your time your way at the link in the show notes. And Mama, do me a favor. If this episode is speaking to you, please share it with a friend. And remember to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. It helps me to reach other moms just like you, because you never know when someone else may need to hear that they're enough. Back to the show. Okay, so we've talked about what your baby needs, but what about you? Because this season isn't just about raising a new human. It's about taking care of the woman that you're becoming while you do it. Charlotte Mason was a brilliant educator whose philosophy has impacted so much of how I approach motherhood and homeschooling. And she taught me something called mother culture. And this is the idea behind it. Charlotte Mason said that a mother who neglects her own intellectual, emotional, and spiritual growth has nothing left to give to her children. She argued that self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. A mother must intentionally be taking time to learn, to read, to think, to learn and engage alongside her children. And this includes engaging with new ideas so that she remains an interesting and growing person. And as I've talked about on this podcast quite a bit, your values will define your beliefs. What you find valuable and what you reach for in your scrolling time or your reading time or your listening to podcast time, your values will shine through in that. So if you want to continue to give the best to your children, you need to give the best of yourself. You need to be actively choosing things that help you to grow so that you can give those best things to your kids. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Jen, but I have barely time to take a shower. How am I going to invest more in myself when this little thing needs me? I hear you. I hear you. So in the infant toddler years, mother culture can look like doing a 5-minute devotional while the baby naps. It can look like an audiobook ride in the car. I hear from so many homeschool moms who play audiobooks while they drive, from when their kids were tiny to all the way up through high school. It might look like one conversation with a friend who lets you think about something other than the next diaper change. But I promise you that when you choose to invest in your growth, even in small ways, you are declaring something so important to yourself. You are saying, I am still a person. I am still growing. And my identity did not disappear when I became a mother. It's just taking a different shape. You are still you no matter how many kids come into your care. And that declaration is a seed for everything else. And that is a seed of confidence. That's the seed of systems. And that's the seed of the family culture that you're building right now, even if it doesn't feel like it. A little recall to our last episode, I moved 3,000 miles away from my family to an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and I still live here. I live in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I had to figure out so many of the things that I learned as a mother on my own. I mean, I kept in touch with my family, but it's nothing like having someone here with you in it who can help you hold the baby when you're just exhausted. It was my husband and I on our own, and, we had some church family here and there, but when you're younger and you don't want to look like a failure at this, you're probably less likely to ask for help as much as you would the more kids that you take on, because the more children you tend to have, the more comfortable you may get with asking for help. But the more often you can implement good systems and stick with them, even if they're imperfect, clumsy, and constantly needing to be adjusted systems, those can become the foundation of your entire family's rhythm. And there's such good things that you can do. But you're not behind if you don't have them. You're still learning. So give yourself credit for that. And learning, continuing to learn, continuing to put yourself in the seat of a student is one of the bravest things that you do as a mom. Remember what James Clear says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And trying to reach a goal without a system, let's say it's getting the baby down and helping them to sleep more peacefully in a place where you can still be doing things for the home. Or maybe it's introducing foods to them that they haven't tried before and continuing to introduce until they get comfortable eating a lot of different foods. Or maybe it's just challenging yourself to get out with the baby, getting out of the house and going and hanging out with other moms. I recognize that a lot of little decisions need to happen consistently and somewhat successfully in order for you to make those other things your goal. I have a few different new mamas in my life right now, and not only are they constantly questioning whether they're doing something right, but they're questioning whether they can handle more. So a lot of times it's just a simple phone call with that mama, and she's asking me things like, well, can I do this? Can I leave her in this room and go somewhere else? I don't feel like I can. I say, well, what are your options? What can you set up in other rooms? Or what can you set up so that you can leave baby safely and handle this other thing in another room? Can you set up a system? Maybe it's something unconventional, like bringing a bassinet or a playpen situation with pillows into the kitchen area. We usually don't do things like that, but when you're a mom of small children and you need to keep your babies close, you gotta move stuff around in the house sometimes, create your own way of making something work. Or if you're that mom who's afraid of the baby crying when they're in the car seat, he really doesn't like the car seat, I hear often. I say, well, how are you going to get out and go anywhere? Are you going to Instacart the rest of your life? Which I highly recommend, by the way, in busy seasons. But if you are keeping yourself from getting out there because you feel limited by your baby's needs, sometimes what you need to hear is, no, it's okay. It's okay if he cries for a little while. This thing has to be done. And if you don't answer his every little noise, that doesn't mean you're being a bad mom. Like, let's talk about the difference between I need to get certain things done in order for our day to function well and what true neglect looks like. And you don't necessarily know where that line is or where you can play with that line if you've never had an infant before, right? So again, this is the importance of having community so that you can have people speak into you in little nuanced ways. So let me give you a few things to hold on to this week if you're in that infant toddler season. First, maybe lower the bar and raise the grace. Your house doesn't have to be spotless. Dinner can be cereal. The laundry can wait a little longer. You are keeping a human alive and helping their brain to develop. And you may even be healing if you had your own birth experience, or maybe it was a surgical C-section. Maybe you had a traumatic birth experience where you need a lot more love and care for yourself right now. And you've got to be able to speak up and say, I would love to, but I cannot. And I feel lightheaded. I feel like I need food. Get used to getting to know what your body needs during this recovery time, at least. And as you move forward into the baby being older and you being able to move around more, get used to asking for the help that you need. And don't be afraid that no one will want to meet that. But also at the same time, ask yourself, can I challenge myself to do something a little different, to move a little bit more? Because you're going to need to find your limits as well. Which leads me to my second point. Number 2, find your rhythm. Finding rhythms that work are amazing. Find it and protect it, whether it's choosing to take a short walk every day, or maybe it's figuring out the bedtime routine. Maybe it's 5 minutes of quiet time before the chaos starts. Find one rhythm and let that be your anchor until you're ready for the next one. Number 3, say yes to help. I know sometimes that people can be very well-meaning in saying, please let me know if you need anything. And we know that if we've been through any hard time or tragedy, we know that phrase it carries so many good intentions. And I have said it before many times because my brain almost can't think quickly enough to just say, here's what I can do for you. Please call me, or I'm going to reach out to you on Wednesday or next month and see if I can do something specific for you. But your job is to accept the help. It's hard. I know for some of you, it can feel like admitting defeat, but that's not what this is at all. Receiving help is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's allowing your community to gather and provide resources for you. We're not supposed to do the motherhood alone. We're really not. Our society has morphed into some weird individualistic thing. And while individualism and independence is a good thing in some contexts, I think in the family context, we've really, really put a whole lot more pressure on ourselves than we used to as mothers. So let's get back to that community mentality and say yes more often than you say no. And number 4, please talk to someone, a friend, a sibling, a counselor, a coach. If you're feeling overwhelmed beyond what feels manageable, that is not a character flaw. That might be postpartum anxiety or depression, and it's incredibly common and very, very treatable. You need support, and you deserve support. Mama, let me close today by coming back to the 3 pillars we always come back to here on the Enough Mom podcast: courage, confidence, and calling. Courage in the infant toddler years looks like getting up one more time in the middle of the night. It looks like admitting that you don't know what you're doing in a certain area or wanting to learn to do it better. And then you get to ask for help anyway. It looks like choosing to believe that you're a good mom, even when the day is so hard. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to keep on going, even in the face of it. Confidence in this season is quiet. It's not bold or loud. It's the slow knowing every time you soothe a crying child or survive a meltdown or even just make it through another day. Every day you are actually becoming more capable than you realize because you're stacking experiences. And that is such a cool thing. Even if you only feel like you're surviving all of this chaos or whatever, you are stacking experience, and only you get to choose what you do with each little moment of the day. Trying moments, beautiful moments, you get to take a deep breath and you get to evaluate what just happened. How could that have gone better? What do I need to change for next time? It's okay to ask yourself those things. Remember that confidence is being reassured in your convictions, and your conviction that your baby needs you is right. That's a correct assumption because they do need you. They truly depend on you in these years. But you also get to stay confident in your personal values, that you still matter, that it matters if you make time for yourself, and that you also deserve to learn and grow in this season. And calling. Mama, your calling has probably never been clearer than it is right now as you're caring for infants and toddlers. You have been entrusted with this little life, not because you're perfect, but because you're exactly the mom that this child needs. Your calling is not to perform motherhood, it's to live it honestly. And that can mean that you're doing it imperfectly, but you're being present. You were already enough, even before this baby came. You're enough right now in the middle of the mess, and you'll be enough tomorrow when you get to do it all again. Thank you for spending this time with me today, Mama. If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend who is caring for infants and toddlers right now. Screenshot it, post it on your stories. And tag me because I love hearing from you. Very soon, I'll be opening up the Enough Mom Collective where we can continue having these conversations that matter and the conversations that lift each other up. And don't forget to grab the Your Time, Your Way resource. The link is in my show notes. In our next episode, we'll be moving into the preschool years. I call them the wonder years because everything is so interesting and wonderful to them when they're preschoolers. I'll be talking about what it means to raise confident and curious kids while you figure out who you are as a mom. You don't want to miss it. So until next time, Mama, you have the courage to face difficulties, the confidence to lead with conviction, and the unique calling to influence your family. You are already enough. I'll see you next time.